It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Find ways to have experiences. The more experiences you have, the more breadth you experience, the more likely it is that you're going to follow your energy and find what it is that you most want to do. And if you're doing something and it doesn't light you up, then go and do something else.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
I've never asked you this question before. How did you do at high school? I mean, I don't know that you had a bad high school experience or a good experience. How did you go academically? Because it's year 12 exam time right now and there's a lot of pressure on a lot of kids. How did you do?
Look, for me, we have similar stories in that I had a very...
You wagged school and went surfing?
I didn't wag school and go surfing, but I did wag school and go just to the shops.
Did you really? You used to wag school. You never told me that.
We've
been married all these years.
No, only once or twice. And literally of all the memories I have of high school, It is the one memory that is burned into my mind.
Why?
Because I was top of the class in my home economics stuff.
You wagged school.
I did.
Mrs. Happy Families.
I did.
I'm seeing a side of you that I can't believe I'm not aware of this story.
Well, the worst thing about it was my mum had lost her car keys.
Right.
And so she'd shown up because I had a spare set.
She showed up at school?
Yes, and I wasn't there.
Oh, no.
No. I was walking into the school at the end of the school day so that I could go meet my mum where I was supposed to meet her, and she was walking through the back gate with my home ec teacher who thought I was just the bee's knees. She adored me.
Right.
So needless to say, I was no longer top of the class.
Oh, really?
I was no longer given the attention that I had been given by that teacher.
You school wagger.
Yeah. She really turned on me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you actually do at school?
Oh, look, I did okay, but mostly with the hands-on.
Okay? What's okay?
I was probably on the 60th percentile.
Oh, okay.
Numbers.
All right. So just...
I passed.
Yeah, just hanging around the middle.
Yeah.
So I dragged out my senior school report from my big folder of all of my reports and photos from school, and I thought it was kind of interesting when we look at where life takes us, what happens in life. I wasn't a very good student. I've never tried to pretend that I was a good student. But so we had the merit awards like every school has. I got 0 blue cards, I got 0 green cards, and I got 0 gold cards in year 12. None. I was the student that no teacher could even give a sympathy merit award to. I was a challenging student when I was at high school. Here's what I don't even know what they call them, like my house family leader, like the person who was in charge of my little group in my house at my school. Do you remember the houses? There's always the houses.
The sport house.
Yeah. So we also had it like our pastoral care wellbeing groups based on which house we were in.
Yeah, it was just your pastoral care teacher.
Yeah. So this person knows me best out of all the teachers. Mr. Gross, he says this, and I love this comment, because back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, on the report cards, they actually told you what they thought of you.
Well, they wrote them by hand.
This is all handwritten. And Mr. Gross said, it was tremendous to see Justin win the senior point score at the school swimming carnival, because that was the only thing that I did well. I really tried at the swimming carnival and I won. I was like open champion in the year 12 swimming carnival.
Well, nowadays they've worked out how to maximise kids who have athletic ability by telling them they can't compete unless they get their grades up to a certain standard.
I'd never heard that. Anyway, this is what he said. It would be gratifying to see this level of commitment and ability transferred to Justin's academic effort. He's basically saying the kid doesn't do anything.
Well, you've definitely made up for it.
He doesn't try. My English score, I scored less than 50%. I failed. Maths, I got 51%, but it was the easiest maths class that you can do, and I don't even know how I got the 50%. This biology, I top scored. Of all of my grades, I got 59% in biology. Everything else, it's just abysmal. It's so bad. I told my ancient history teacher, look, let bygones be bygones. What are we even talking about this for? I was terrible. I was an absolutely horrendous student. And then, and that's my grades before the HSC was done. Once I did my final exams, I failed them all, every one of them. And so I ended up scoring in the bottom 15% of the state. Like my numbers were abysmal, embarrassingly, horrendously bad. And my parents were paying all this money for me to go to this really fancy school on the New South Wales Central Coast. And here I was squandering all their cash, squandering the great education they were trying to give me. And it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating for them. And I didn't care at all And so I thought we should talk today about parents who want their kids to do really well and who are struggling to get their kids to do any study. I figured there's value in that, even though the podcast's half over already.
Well, you obviously turned it around.
Yeah.
Because after nearly 9 years back at school, at university, studying, learning, growing.
I got a PhD.
You did. And you proved that you were capable of doing it.
Yes.
So how did you turn things around? I mean, you've gone from being pretty much a high school dropout. You failed your final exams.
It was abysmal.
And any parent
it was so bad.
Any parent who's sitting here listening to this right now with a kid who is exactly like you, completely unmotivated to do anything. They have not studied. Their year has felt like an absolute waste of time.
It doesn't even have to be year 12 either. They could be in grade 4 or grade 5 and me saying, oh, I hate school, I don't want to do this.
Is freaking out because they're looking at their kid's trajectory and wanting the very best for them, knowing that they've put in everything they've got to give them the best, and it's still not enough. So how did you turn things around?
I think the critical thing to recognise here is I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that high school was completely irrelevant to it. My parents were forcing me to do high school, but I wanted to be a radio announcer. I'd done work experience in grade 10 at the local radio station, 2GO, and knew from that minute that my destiny was on air. I mean, I just knew it. I used to love hanging out in the radio station studio with Sarah King and Sarah and Cameron with the Brekkie crew and Rick Julian, this hardened surfer dude from Foresters Beach who was on the air from 9 to 12. And other than that, he just surfed his life away. And I was thinking, this is the life. I used to ring the late night request show with Don Mayo and ask him to do love song dedications to whichever girl I had a crush on. I mean, I was so committed to radio and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So doing year 12 was only happening because my parents were forcing me to be there. And I think this is a critical thing. As parents, we get so caught up in this tunnel vision that the kids have to go to school and they have to do well, otherwise their life is over.
Well, when I think about my mum and dad's generation, one generation back, there kind of was just one education pathway. You finished high school, you did well, you were able to go to university.
Go and get a job.
Get a job.
Yep. Yep.
And so for parents,
and if you didn't do well, you would do manual labour.
Yeah, you were kind of stuck in. It felt like stuck in a rut.
You know what though? I want to push back against that a little bit. You're right in that was the mindset, but we always have choice. We always have options. Maybe
it's harder.
Of course, it's harder. I mean, me going back to school at 26, 27 and spending the next 8.5 years as a full-time student while we had kids and a mortgage, that was way harder than going to school when I was 18 or 19, straight into university after high school. But going back and doing it the hard way has actually been better for us because I went back for the right reasons and I worked my tail off because it really mattered and I was so invested in it. Anyway, I'm sort of skipping ahead. The main point that I want to make is 2 points. Number one, there are always options. There are always options. Your parents, my parents, always had options. We all have options. We can walk away from what we're doing. We can start over. There are all sorts of safety nets, all kinds of supports, all kinds of welfare options that can help us to change the trajectory of our lives at any given moment. There's always an option, even when we feel trapped. We just need to know who to ask or where to go. But there are options. I knew I wanted to be a radio announcer. I knew that year 12 was irrelevant. In fact, year 11 was irrelevant. I was only doing it because my parents said that I had to. And so the effort that I put in was zero, and therefore the result that I got was essentially zero. But I knew that I could get into radio, and I did it, and I had a successful radio career. So I think that's the first thing. If your child knows what they want to do, that's 90% of the battle. Knowing what you want to do, that's the big thing.
My impression, though, is most kids actually don't. There is so much pressure for them to know what they're going to do with the rest of their life from the time they're in year 10.
Yeah.
I mean, our daughter came home and after having had a conversation with a teacher at the end of grade 9 when she was choosing her subjects.
She was crying.
And she was literally like, my teachers told me that I've got no hope if I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life now.
Yeah.
She was in grade 9.
Got to choose your subjects now, otherwise you're not going to get the right subjects for senior year, and then you're going to get it wrong for year 11 and 12, and university, you'll be in the wrong course, it won't work. And it's just a load of garbage. So I gave a talk just last week at Corinda State High School in Brisbane to year 11 going into year 12. They're all the official, now they're year 12 because the year 12s are finishing their exams and they're done. So year 11 has officially become year 12. And I talked to them about making this last year count and what they could do after school. You've got kids in this grade, some of whom their life is mapped out. They know where they're going. And some kids who are like, I don't even know why I'm here. And I said to them, my advice is say yes to everything until you're 40 and say no to almost everything after 40. I'm talking about from a career point of view. So if our kids aren't being exposed to different forms of work experience, then they're not going to learn what they like. So many parents now are saying, I don't want my child to have a job because I want them to focus on their studies. But it's not until you go and do that work experience. If I had never gone to the radio station, I would never have known how much I could have loved it and never have had that career. We actually say to our kids, work out what you want to do and then go and offer to work for free for the people who do what you do. Because if you work for free for them, even if it's for 6 or 12 months, you will learn what that industry is about. You'll learn what the people there do. They will learn to trust you. They'll see that you're dependable. And then when there is paid work available, they will pay you to do that work. Like, find ways to have experiences. The more experiences you have, the more breadth you experience, the more likely it is that you're going to follow your energy and find what it is that you most want to do. And if you're doing something and it doesn't light you up, then go and do something else. So your question was, how did I turn it around? What happened was I knew what I wanted to do. And so year 12 wasn't important. For kids that don't know what to do, they don't know where they want to go, help them to get experience, get them off the screens and get them to go and do some trolley pushing at the local Woolies, or get them to go and work as a checkout chick, or work in the deli, or work in the fruit and veg department. Or maybe they want to go and work for the local florist down the road, sweeping up rose thorns and putting all the dirty, stinking water down the drains, and because they're interested in the creative side of things. Help them to find where they want to be and give them experiences to see if they actually like it. And if they don't, tell them to quit and find something else. That's how you make sure that your life is on track. You tap into the stuff that gives you energy and you say yes to everything. And if they find something that they love, like, for example, psychology, which is what happened with me, I was asked by somebody to write an article for a website, this little website that had just started up called KidSpot, because I was doing a PhD and somebody was interested in what I was learning about. So I wrote the article and they said, hey, you can write some stuff. Would you like to write some more stuff? And I said, okay. I said yes to everything. Next thing you know, I was their resident parenting expert for a number of years. And then another opportunity came up to be on the TV because I wrote something that got picked up by the paper, and I said yes to everything. And over time, I've followed the stuff that really lights me up and I've moved away from the stuff that doesn't. I've had so many opportunities that I've taken and then gone, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. The business could have gone in 43 different directions, but it's where it is now because I said yes to everything and then said no to things once I realized that they weren't doing it for me. And to me, that's the best advice that I can give for parents whose kids are growing up and dealing with that question. Oh, the other advice is don't ever ask your kids what they want to do. Like, oh, what are you going to do when you finish school? It's such an unfair question. Instead, say, what's exciting to you now? Where would you like to be working right now? And how can we support that? To me, there's much more value in that than demanding that they go out and know what their life trajectory is going to be. I mean, only about 20% of adults are doing today what they thought they'd be doing when they finished high school. Putting pressure on kids today when they're in grade 10 or the grade 9 or grade 12 to know what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. It's just crazy because they're going to change their mind.
So what can parents do if they find themselves with a son or a daughter who is just like you?
Trust is number one. Like, you've got to trust in the inbuilt desire for your child to grow and develop and find something. The second thing is establish some basic rules and parameters. You're welcome to live in our house for as long as you want, kiddo, but the expectation is that you're either working full-time or studying full-time. You have to be making progress on something. If you don't know what you want to do, just do something. And once you've discovered that that's not what you want to do, keep doing it until you find something else. A perfect case in point, we've done this with our kids. We had our eldest daughter. She went to uni straight after school, discovered really quickly that she wasn't ready for it. And so we said...
Even though she signed up for a course that she was...
Really passionate about. Yeah, but she had no energy in it once she was involved in it. She was like, this is not what I hoped that it would be. And we said, well, that's fine. Quit uni because you're wasting your time and your money, but you must be full-time earning or full-time learning. She got a job in a factory. she did it for about 18 months.
Well, the pay was fantastic.
That's
and
right.
She was driven by the money for a certain period of time until she realised that this work actually sucks and I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life.
No energy. Again, it's not about following your passion. It's about following your energy. No energy in it. She went back to school. She felt like she was mature and ready, and she really enjoyed school the second time around. She's back at uni and studying, and then an opportunity came up to do what she's always dreamt of doing and that she thought she needed a university degree to do. And these people said, no, you don't need the degree. Come and work for us now. We'll take you right now. So she's let go of the degree for the second time, which was a bit harder for us to stomach, but she's actually doing what she always wanted to do.
And our conversations with her is, I can't believe that I get to do this and they actually pay me.
I get to do it every day. She's followed the energy and she said yes to every opportunity, and it's opened up pathways and gateways. And what more could you want as a parent? Do I care that my daughter has a degree? I mean, I think it would be great if she did have one. I know the value of education. But what I care more about is that she's living a life that's fulfilling and that's satisfying her energy needs.
See, this just taps into the conversation we had yesterday about being interesting and that idea of valuing education. Education comes in every
all kinds of ways,
facet of our lives.
It's not just university.
We are learning all the time, and we put so much emphasis on the education we receive that has a piece of paper signed by a university to say that we're an intellect.
Yep.
But the reality is we can have amazing, fulfilling lives through the experiences and education we get just from living.
Let me add one more thing to this in case anyone thinks that we're anti-education.
We're not.
Not at all. For kids that aren't interested in education, maybe that will come later in life and they can get their education in other ways. So long as they're progressing and following their energy and saying yes to opportunities until they really find what lights them up. That's the central thing. But if academic work is doing that for them, if they know their trajectory, get them going down that path. I mean, maybe they want to be, I'll pick a really high profile thing, maybe they want to be a doctor. So they get into medical school, but once they're in medical school, they have 1,000 options within medicine. They can do radiology, they can do urology, they can do cardiology, they can do pathology. I mean, there are so many different ologies in medicine that it's incredible. And they can spend the next 10 or 15 years of their lives studying. But while they're doing that, maybe they get interviewed in the media. Maybe they become a medical doctor who's on TV. Or maybe they discover the idea of doing remote work medically and working with people who have specialized needs. Or do you know what I mean? Like, just say yes to everything. Follow the energy until you're 40. By the time you're 40, you know where you want to specialize. But now you've got 15 years of range and breadth and depth. And then you can go super deep on the one thing that you want to do because you've figured it out over the last 10 or 15 years. Life is long. Careers are long, and you can do so many different things. And I just think the idea that we need to get our kids to get a really good grade right now so that they can decide right now, so that they can set their life course right now, is unfair. It does them a disservice. The options will always be there. Getting into university is easier now than it has ever been, and you can get in as a mature age student. The ATAR becomes irrelevant. Your child is worth more than what their ATAR score is, and they have options. That's really the take-home message.
I had a conversation with one of my closest friends just recently. She was an absolute mess. She was tears just streaming as she told me about her son who failed year 12, and his whole life, all he's wanted to do was be a train driver. And she had tried all of these different options for him throughout his, kind of senior years to try and get experience, and it wasn't going anywhere. And then he was able to spend some time with some family up in Townsville.
Yes.
And a job became available an hour and a half down the road. So this is not easy. It's an hour and a half down the road. And he signed up for it and he got the job, but it was kind of a railway hand. He was, a helper. And they have been so impressed with him over the last few months as he's worked there. He's got a guaranteed train driving role starting next year. He failed high school and he didn't think that he was good enough for anything. But his dream has been to be a train driver, and his mum has believed in him the whole way through. And I love it. Because it takes all types to make our world function and work and flourish and grow. And here's this kid who's had this dream, and traditional schooling did not work for him, but he's been able to follow his heart.
Yeah. Put yourself in the right places. Do the work in the areas that it matters. Put your energy there. Follow the energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. The score, sometimes it's really, really important. Let's not dispute the fact that sometimes that score is really important, but more often than not, it's not nearly as important as we make it out to be. This has been a long conversation, but I hope it's been helpful. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And for more information about making your family happier, you can visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.